Good afternoon, everyone. Appreciate you all being here. I was just joking with my team. The only good thing about some of these stages is I can't see people, but looks like I can see it's a full house. I appreciate you all coming to the session. My name is Madhavi Kanumoory. I'm the Chief Digital and Information Officer for Birla Carbon. It's an Aditya Birla Group company, and we actually manufacture carbon black. Think of vehicles that have tires. Think of anything that's black. It pretty much has carbon black in it. We recently found applications of carbon black in EV batteries because it has an application that goes into lithium ion, which is a key component of electric vehicle batteries. So we have a small startup within Birla Carbon, which is called Energy Systems. So that's me in a nutshell. So what I'll try to do, thanks for an excellent session by Prakash. Hopefully there's not a lot of repeat here because I did try to introduce certain intro slides that talk about what AI is, but other than that, hopefully it's not too much of a repeat. But what we'll try to do today is kind of talk about the possibilities that AI can do for you and also some of the nuances that come with it. And hopefully, as we wrap the session, you will walk away with a few thoughts, with a few intriguing questions that you might have, and maybe a slight provocation of an awakening, because all of you are going to play a key role in being part of this revolution that's happening here. It's kind of interesting that I call it revolution because just like Prakash, I've also been in the industry for a very long time. My love for computers and artificial intelligence started way back when. I was introduced to computers in my high school, where they were doing a summer program to introduce how to do programming. And I loved it, right? I could give instructions, and the computer would just follow it. So that's great. You tell somebody to do something, and it just gets done. And if that's a machine, it doesn't even talk back to you. How cool is that, right? So I really fell in love with computers at that time. Fast forward a little bit, I got into engineering. Those days, today there are lots of options, but those days it used to be like a if-then logic, right? You do great, you get good marks, you get into entrance, you get into medical, go be a doctor. No, get into engineering. Within engineering, there's also another if-then-else but, right? Computer science, great, go do it. Electronics, do it. Electrical and electronics, civil, okay. But I ended up being an electrical and electronics engineer. That's me by education. But then what actually happened is for my project, they had started to introduce these programming languages called BASIC and Fortran. I don't know if any of you were born in that age, but we did do BASIC and Fortran. But also as I got into third year, and final year, we started looking at something called expert systems, basically a very early version of artificial intelligence. And it was really, really awakening at that point in time, mainly because we could feed facts. So for example, think of traffic lights, right? If it is red, stop. If it is yellow, slow down. If it is green, then go forward, right? These are facts that we could feed into the computer, and the computer could make decisions based on what it saw. So that was the basic logic that we used. And then as I got into my project work, I thought of, it's electrical and electronics, but if I did something with computers and hopefully artificial intelligence way back when, that would be kind of cool. So worked with my teachers, my professors. We were a group of 5 folks. So I was able to convince the rest of the folks that we could do this. And there seemed to be a use case. So some of us in India are very, very familiar with the power shutdowns that happen in our homes, right? Especially during summer. The electricity gets shut down 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, whatever that is. What's really happening is because of the limitations of how much electricity is available and prioritizing hospitals, dairy works, water works, some of these key essentials for the city. They do load shedding, which is called load shedding. They cut off power in different regions at different points in time. And that's how you balance the power in a way that none of your emergency services are disrupted. At the same time, you're able to give electricity for as much period of time as possible to the households. So that was a use case, and we said, how can we apply logic to it? How can we automate it, right? It used to be that an operator would go, watch these things, and then manually make those decisions in the mind and turn off the switches and on the switches to make this happen. So if we could use the concept of artificial intelligence and write algorithms to basically automatically calculate, instead of saying this area gets shut down from 6 to 9, that area gets shut down from 3 to 6, and yada, 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 we can actually optimize and really maximize the amount of electricity we can give to the households. So that thought was quite interesting, and we worked with the Karnataka Electricity Board. I did my engineering in Mysore. And then they thought it was quite interesting. We actually got it to a point that it was workable, to the point where the next research paper was supposed to be, how do you do the closed loop and automatically switch on and switch off? So that was my love for artificial intelligence. Mind it was 30 plus years ago. So we talk about advancement and the pace at which things advance today. It did take such a long time for this to hit the hype cycle, but I think we are in a revolution, like I said, because the advancement is way too much. And the pace of what is happening in the world is accelerating like crazy. One other point I want to make, as I was doing this was in an age where internet was not public yet. Web 1.0 did not exist. Google was not born yet. So it was kind of hard to do the research on the one hand side, but on the other hand side, we were happy that we were able to get these results. I hope, and I'm pretty sure, that the code that we wrote way back when doesn't exist. I hope it doesn't exist, because I'm pretty sure if it does, it would have a zillion vulnerabilities that someone could actually hack into it, and maybe even control the electricity board if that had happened, if the closed loop system had happened. So the good thing at that time was the fact that we only knew the possibilities. We didn't know about what issues it might cause because of the advancement of technology. Today, we are not in a situation like that. We are in a situation where everything can be connected. My watch can track me. I don't have an iWatch because I don't want a machine tracking me. But a lot of folks use it for the good. The intent of it is good. But if something were to go wrong, it also has effects that could be very, very bad, not just to the individual, but to humanity. So my call for action for you all today, and we'll go into some of the data and some metrics in a bit, but the call for action for you all today is, as you play your roles, whether you are a hardcore programmer or a developer or a leader or someone who is working on the functional side with machines and stuff like that, you have a role to play, is looking at how do we protect this. What we don't know, we don't know. I had no idea at that point in time that internet will come into existence. I had no idea that computers can talk to each other in the future. So what we don't know, we don't know. But the good thing is the fact that there is so much information available out there today, and there are predictions happening on the trends and where this is going. So we are at an advantage to look at what might happen in the future and build for it today. So that is my request to you all, and we'll dig through a little bit of that. So basics first. Intelligence. So just basic definition of intelligence. I go back to a child, right? A child, when the child is born. My daughter, when she was born, if I took her to the sink, an example of that is, the water is coming out of the pipe and she's trying to hold it. She doesn't know that she cannot hold water, right? But she tried it and she could not hold water. What is happening at that time is she is getting fed the fact that water is flowing and she cannot hold it. So next time she won't try it, right? So basically, the human brain is tuned in a way that you can actually think based on facts and experiences. And that's exactly what we are trying to do, and mimic a computer to behave in that way, right? I can easily calculate 5 times 10. But even 51 times 27, I will need a calculator. So that is what the human brain does not have. I know most of you all have it, I just don't. But it can get complicated, right? The human intelligence cannot be so advanced, and the computational power cannot be that great as a machine can do. And that's the advantage that we took care of when people started to think about artificial intelligence. So you use the power of computers, you use the power of computing, and you use the power of ability to compute zillions of data sets and derive at some conclusion. And we actually trained a computer to do it, and that's artificial intelligence. And I'm sure everyone's heard of generative AI. That's like hitting every single social media, news, your organizations, everyone started to think about it. I don't have to teach you all, but the basic difference between artificial intelligence and generative AI is the fact that generative AI actually creates new content, basically text or voice or whatever, but it actually creates new content. So basics out of the way. The previous speaker, Prakash, actually talked about a lot of use cases, which are the possibilities of AI. So it's a really good thing that AI is here today. Advancements in medical technology, for example. If you look at the diagnostics area, even though the prediction had happened 30 plus years ago, it is now getting close to a reality where you can actually look at images of human parts and actually predict the advancement of a disease. And that's beautiful. That is actually creating good for humanity, creating good for the human beings. Those kind of predictions is what we rely on as businesses, not only help the individuals, the customers, and our end users, but also to help the company grow, to differentiate themselves, and all that kind of stuff. So that is the power of artificial intelligence. The use cases are humongous, it's everywhere. The caution is know your use case, know what you're solving for, what is the business problem you're trying to solve for, and build your technology right around that. There's a McKinsey study that came up recently that actually compared the trending businesses, the businesses that they were doing very well using AI, and the businesses that were not doing so well using AI, but still leveraging AI for a lot of things. The one common factor is the fact that pretty much all businesses use AI for cost reduction opportunities. I think, again, Prakash talked about an example of going from selling an equipment to selling service, which actually for companies it translates to translating CapEx to OpEx, which is easier to pay for. But at the end of the day, the customer is paying for the outcomes that the machine delivers and not just the machine itself. So first, my money is not locked up. Next, I get the experience that I need. What else do I want? So those kind of use cases are becoming more and more differentiating for companies. So think through those and build around that, right? Those are the ones, the companies that are using artificial intelligence for use cases like that, and also to build new business models. Amazon versus Walmart is a great example, right? Amazon brought the shop to your home, whereas you had to actually go to the shop to buy stuff. Now the difference between, you're still buying, you're still getting the product that you need. It's just that in one case, the product is arriving at your doorstep, and that is coming to you, versus you going and spending your time and energy and traffic and all that kind of stuff to get the same product. Oh, by the way, it can be cheaper too. So it's a different business model. So how can you use artificial intelligence to differentiate yourselves in building new business models? These are the companies that are really using AI to think big and differentiate themselves. So those are some of the really good possibilities of AI. Now, we talked about some of the nuances, with cyber being here, and the fact that machines can talk to machines. Machines can make decisions. Machines can talk to humans, and humans can talk to machines. The whole area around the risks is something that is not what you should forget. This is something very important, and the way you look at how you develop from the get-go is very important. It's not easy to catch a model, an AI model that you put into production that starts to misbehave. To course correct that is going to be much more expensive, much more tougher. Whereas building the guardrails from scratch and getting to the point where it does not behave badly in the first place is going to be the winning race. There's enough bad stuff happening in the world. You talk about Russia, Ukraine, most recently Israel and Hamas. There's enough bad stuff happening, right? So my request is think about the role that you play and think about what you're creating, not just for yourself and for your company, but for the future generations to come. Some of the risks and concerns are it can be biased. You all must have heard of an example where there's an artificial intelligence program written to shortlist resumes for interviews. It started rejecting resumes that were female. Why? Because as you started to feed the data and the facts, it started looking at screens and the decisions that were being made, and it started to match up saying, okay, this was approved, this was rejected, this was approved, this was rejected. And then it saw that the folks that were male candidates were getting approved much more easier. So when the AI program got into the automatic mode, it was automatically rejecting all female resumes. So that can be a bias that you built in, not intentionally, but unintentionally, right? Deepfakes, all of you all have heard, this can be very dangerous, embarrassing. You can put the face of someone on the body of someone else or mimic that something else is happening. There was a recent news article, and this was removed by the media within seconds, by the way, is what I heard is, there was a video that was floating around saying the Pentagon was hit. Now that didn't happen, but it was a deep fake, right? So many other examples like that, I'll let you all go through those and dig deep further. One other thing I do want to pick up here is existential risks. There are risks that are inherent that can be brought into the ecosystem that will be a threat to the very existence of the humankind. So this is a serious matter. So thanks and welcome to Responsible AI. This is the crux of this whole thing. Hopefully all of you all have heard of Responsible AI. If not, I will urge that you look it up and pay real attention to this. The World Economic Forum, with the backing of PwC, who did a survey, predicts that $15.7 trillion of the global GDP growth that will happen by 2030 will be a direct contribution of AI. This is huge. It's like almost close to about 20% of the global GDP that will be in 2030. Just imagine the risks that are going to be introduced because of that growth. Just ask yourselves, what roles do you have to play? Responsible AI gives you kind of a governance. It's developing. It's not something that's advanced already yet, but it does give you some kind of indications on a governance framework that you could put together that will address ethics, morals, and legal values. That's something that you must pay attention to as you're building some of these things. Most importantly, organizations and definitely each one of you as individuals must drive AI as a force for good. And that's something that is in your hands today. Some of the principles to consider, and definitely it's not something I remember by nature, and I use some of these frameworks as a driving factor for me to kind of think through some of these elements, and you can see that in the screen. But each one of those talks about how you have to build your models. Just ask these questions. Am I looking at security and resilience? If a bot goes haywire, can I control it? Ask these questions as you're building. So take note of, there are about 10 principles that I was able to put together. Take note of those, and I will urge you to dig further and understand that better and be the force for good. Key considerations, like I said, have a really focused strategy. Know what you want AI to do for you and your business. AI can do a lot of things, but is that the real technology you need to use for that particular business problem? Is something that you really need to think through. What is the roadmap? How do you envision 5 years from now on what AI will be doing for you and your business? And how can you put together that roadmap? And as part of that roadmap, how do you look at those guardrails that you have to build today? That's some of the, that's one of the principles that you need to look at. Again, develop for only that use case. Don't leave it broad-ended. Keep it very closed loop to that specific use case. Implement and follow responsible AI practices. Governance mechanism. This is something very important. A lot of us ignore governance, basically around trying to check at, is the model that you developed built and behaving the way you would want? And doing those checks on a regular basis and mitigating any of the nuances that you find happening will help you control this before it goes haywire. Continuously monitor and audit and put those controls in place. These are some of the things that you can consider as you look at AI for your development. Again, just in summary, it's an exciting time to be in. Extremely exciting. The possibilities are many. It can be a differentiator for your company, for your business, and for yourself. Use it in a way that you're responsible. Take responsibility for what you're putting out there, for not just for yourself and your company, but for the next generations to come. Do not ignore the inherent and the existential risks that this could create. Done right, this can create differentiation for your business. We talked about that. Be the leader and be part of the change. And that's what I have today for you.